Good morning, Year 7. I hope you had a lovely week and that you've produced lots of amazing work that you have sent to your teachers. I've had so many lovely emails again from loads of teachers telling me what wonderful things you've been achieving, okay? So, welcome to your second assembly in your series of distance learning assemblies. Quite a lot of people watched the first one, so hopefully even more of you will have a chance to watch this one. So, the title of this assembly is, Can One Person Make a Difference? And I was inspired to do this by something in the news, again, that I saw. So, I'm going to start you off with a quote. So, this is a quote from Mother Teresa, and I'm sure you've heard of her. So it says, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples." Now, I am sure lots of you have thrown stones into water, maybe even tried skimming them, but eventually they land, don't they? And each time they land, they create a ripple effect. So wherever the stone is, it drops in, and that creates ripples that go out from where the stone landed. And that's what this assembly is all about. It's about the fact that if we do something positive, if we do something lovely, that creates ripples. That creates more lovely things in the future, okay? So, as I said, this assembly is all about, can one person make a difference? Well, I think you know my answer to this question is going to be a resounding yes. However, maybe I can prove it to you with some examples of how one person, well, 3 people actually, really have made a huge difference. And maybe you will be inspired to go away and create your very own ripple. Maybe your ripple won't be as big as kind of, the ones that we look at, but every time you do something positive, every time you do something lovely, it does create that ripple. So, maybe the people I'm going to talk about haven't solved the problem they were fighting for, but at least they've given that problem a voice, and they've made the world aware that there is a problem. Maybe they were the person to throw the stone. They were the catalyst, which meant that the ripple got so large that people just had to notice it, okay? They had to do something about it. I think that's definitely the first person in my list. He definitely did that. And maybe our ripples, like I said, when we make them, maybe they won't be quite so big as the ones that I look at in this assembly. But a ripple of any size creates positivity, and that's definitely something worth doing. So, my first person I'm going to look at is this guy on the left here. So his name is Marcus Rashford, and I'm sure you've heard all about him in the news. So, who is he? Well, he was born in 1997 into a poor area of South Manchester. Now, he was one of 5 children who were raised by their mum. Okay, now they didn't have very much money during their childhood, and they would often not have enough food for 3 meals a day, especially during the summer holidays, because Marcus was one of those children, and there's lots of children in the country that receive free school meals. And so actually, in the summer holidays, when he didn't have that, it meant that often, there was no lunch, which is obviously a really sad kind of place to be and not a healthy one at all. So when he was aged just 7, he earned a place with the Youth Manchester United squad. And by 11, he had earned a scholarship that meant he would live away from home, go to a new school, which must have been incredibly scary for him at just 11 years old. You guys are 11, some of you might be 12, but how scary would that be to leave home, go and live somewhere completely new and start a whole new school? But it did mean that he would have, everything he needed. He would have 3 meals a day, he would have, shelter, and he would be kind of living his dream as well. So at age 22, he has now appeared for Manchester United's first team 133 times, and he scored 41 goals. And as I am sure you have noticed from the news, he certainly used his wealth and his fame for good effect. Okay, so my next thing is, well, can one person make a difference? Well, I am 100% positive that Marcus Rashford did. So, having grown up in a house where things were tough, they didn't have enough money even for the necessities, let alone all the extra things that some of us enjoy, like phones and tablets and all those kind of things. So Marcus Rashford knew how it felt, and he knew he had to do something when he realised that thousands of school children might go without 3 meals a day this summer. So many children get free school meals, as I said, whilst in school, but not during the summer holidays. That's never been the policy. Now, this can cause problems even in the best of times. But with the coronavirus pandemic, and obviously lots of people lost their jobs, lots of people have been furloughed, this was just going to get worse and worse. You know, if you were struggling beforehand and now someone in your family has lost their job, you know, things were going to get even worse. So Marcus Rashford took this into his own hands. He wrote a letter to all the members of Parliament pleading with them to continue free school meals for those children during the summer holidays. Now, previously, Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, had said that this was not going to happen, that we didn't have the money for this and it wasn't going to be a scheme that was going to be introduced. However, this week he changed his mind. And the reason he changed his mind was because of this man, was because of Marcus Rashford. So actually, because of one person, a huge change happened. And this change has happened for thousands of children who will have a much better summer. So hopefully, he proves that one person really can make a difference. So I've gone with a second example, also from kind of this era of our lives, so from kind of 2020 and the coronavirus. And once again, I'm certain you will have heard of him. So it's Captain Tom. So, who is Captain Tom? Well, I'm once again obviously certain you'll have heard of him and all the wonderful things he has achieved. Well, before he became Captain Tom, he was a British Army officer, and he served in lots of places for the British Army, including during World War II. He is now 100 years old, but it was the end of his 99th year that saw him make yet another huge difference to the lives of so many people. So what did he do? In the run-up to his 100th birthday, Captain Tom decided he wanted to give something back to our wonderful NHS that has helped so many people, not just now, but for, you know, all the years that it has existed. And he vowed to walk 100 laps of his garden. Now, he's obviously, you know, that was a bit of a struggle for him, and it was, you know, a really impressive thing to do. Little did he know that his initial aim of raising £1,000 for his local hospital would turn into millions of pounds. Eventually, he raised almost £40 million for the NHS. And as a result of that money, there's going to be a whole new cancer ward at his local hospital. There are these well-being suites that are popping up all over hospitals where staff and patients can go if everything's just got a little bit too much. There's these like pop-up shops that offer free food and free snacks and, you know, lots of help to staff who have obviously really been struggling during this pandemic, and so much more. So actually here, one person definitely made a difference. He didn't quite know he was going to make such a difference, but it just shows that ripple effect, doesn't it? Because actually Captain Tom doing that, you know, almost quite small act of walking his garden 100 times rippled into hundreds of thousands of people donating to the NHS based on his cause. So that's another great example. But I can prove it even further, because what about that ripple? Well, actually, that quote at the beginning, okay, that quote about us creating these ripples of positivity, well, I am a firm believer that one positive act causes another. Even something tiny. If I smile at someone in the morning, they're going to go into their day happier and more positive, and they are likely to do something nice and positive for someone else. And boy did Captain Tom cause a ripple. Over £100 million was raised for the NHS over this, just so far in this kind of coronavirus pandemic. And some of this, £100+ million, was because of how inspired people were by Captain Tom. So one example is these two young boys, okay? Now they really did want to walk, absolutely, in his footsteps. So the first one is Frank Nils, and he was only 6 years old. And he walked 10 metres a day for 10 days. Now that's an amazing feat because he has something called spina bifida, which makes walking really difficult. And previously, he'd only really learnt to walk 18 months before, so when he was about 4.5. So the fact that he managed to do 10 metres every day for 10 days was amazing. And the one on the other side is a boy called... can't quite remember his name. His name is under my... Tobias. Tobias Weller was his name. And he's 9 years old. And he has cerebral palsy. And so prior to the starting kind of this mission of his, he could only really walk about 50 metres a day because it really was a struggle. He would have to use his wheelchair at other times. But he has vowed to walk 750 metres a day until he has completed a marathon. Now that will take him almost over 50 days that will take him to actually walk that marathon. And he has again raised hundreds of thousands of pounds for the wonderful cause that is our NHS. So hopefully that really shows you that one positive act absolutely breeds another, okay? So every time you do something positive, it's just going to create more positivity in the world, and that's definitely what we need at the moment. So, as with most of my assemblies, we started with a quote and we're going to end with one, okay? So hopefully I've proved to you that one person can absolutely make a difference. So hopefully you'll go away from this thinking all about these wonderful examples, but also about what you can do. So the Buddha is my final quote, and he said, "We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world." And I think that's got so much truth in it. And I think, with quotes from religions, they can have so much more of an effect on everybody. It doesn't need to just be, resigned to one religion that they can have an effect on. This quote could help everyone. We are what we think. If I think positive things, then I'm going to have a more positive day. If I wake up telling myself that today is going to be a good day, then you know what? It probably will be. But if I wake up saying, oh, this is bad about my life and this is bad and I'm going to have a terrible day, then actually, you know what? I probably am going to have a terrible day. So that's what he's saying. If we think positive, that's what we become. We become a positive person. And then he says, all that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. So, just like I said, if we decide to make the world a more positive place by being a positive person and, engaging in positive acts and doing things that make a difference to other people, that's what the world will become. The world will become a more positive place. Okay, so I hope that was interesting, hope you enjoyed my examples, and I hope I've proved to you that one person absolutely can make a difference. Maybe we won't make a difference on that scale, but like I said, if you can make a difference to one person each day, that's just as amazing a feat as any of the other things that we've looked at. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all sometime soon.